When your wife says she's going to a corporate event in Chicago, but you accidentally see a hotel name in Gatlinburg on her phone screen, you realize something's wrong. I worked as a welder at a large factory in Nashville. The job was tough, hands constantly covered in calluses, but the pay was decent. My wife Megan worked as a business analyst at a big company, always with her laptop, presentations, and endless meetings. We got married 3 years ago, and at first, everything was perfect. She supported me, I supported her. Just a regular couple building their future together. My name was Victor, and I had never been a suspicious husband. I didn't check phones, didn't read messages. I trusted completely. But the last few months, something had changed. Megan became somewhat distant. Not cold, just different. More time on her phone, more urgent projects, more business trips. That evening I came home early. The shift ended 2 hours earlier due to equipment problems. Megan was sitting on the couch with her phone, and when I walked in she quickly flipped it face down. Too quickly. I pretended not to notice, went to take a shower. But that gesture stuck in my head. The next morning she announced another corporate event. Chicago, 3 days, Megan said, pouring herself coffee. Important presentation for investors. I nodded, kissed her, and drove to work. But something wouldn't let me rest. That evening when she was in the shower, I did something I'd never done before. Looked at her phone. I knew the code, she'd never changed it. And then I saw it. A hotel booking in Gatlinburg, not Chicago. Mountain View Resort and Spa. For 2 people. Luxury suite. Same dates. My heart started beating faster. I quickly took a photo of the screen with my phone and put her phone back. Gatlinburg was a resort town in the mountains, a romantic place for couples. Not a place for a corporate event. The next 2 days I pretended everything was fine. Kissed her goodbye when she left for the airport. Then I took vacation at my own expense and followed her. I rented a car so she wouldn't recognize my pickup and arrived in Gatlinburg that same night. The hotel was indeed luxurious. I checked into a room in the opposite wing of the building. In the morning I went down to the restaurant and saw them. Megan was sitting at a table by the window with a man I'd never seen before. Tall, in an expensive suit, confident. They were holding hands. She was laughing in a way she hadn't laughed with me in a long time. I took several photos on my phone and went up to my room. My hands were shaking with rage, but I forced myself to think rationally. Just exploding and making a scene wasn't my style. I wanted to know more. In the evening I saw them walking to the hotel spa center. I followed them at a safe distance. At the entrance to the pool they stopped and I heard the man say, "Roger, I told you this is our last weekend together before I tell him everything." Roger. Now I had a name. "Megan, you've been saying that for 2 months," he replied. "I want to be with you officially. I'm risking my reputation by dating a married woman." "I know, honey," she kissed him. "Just a little more time." I returned to my room. So this had been going on for more than a week. 2 months minimum, possibly longer. The next day I hired a private photographer who specialized in family matters. He took dozens of photos of Megan and Roger, having lunch, walking in the mountains, kissing by a waterfall. Then I did something Megan didn't know about. Our apartment was registered in my name, purchased before the marriage. But the joint bank account was in both our names. I transferred all my money, and these were my savings from 5 years of hard work, to a new personal account that I'd opened before the wedding but never used. When Megan returned from Chicago, I greeted her as usual. Kiss, hug, questions about the corporate event. She told me about the presentation, about colleagues, about a hotel in the city center. She lied, looking me in the eyes, and that was the biggest betrayal. I waited another 2 weeks. During this time I found out everything about Roger. He worked as a realtor at a prestigious real estate agency in Nashville. Married, 2 children. His wife Ashley was a teacher at an elementary school. Perfect family and social media photos. And then I made my move. I sent Ashley an anonymous email with all the photos. Every detail, every moment of intimacy between her husband and my wife. I also sent a copy to the management of the real estate agency where Roger worked, with a detailed description of how their employee was using work hours for personal meetings. Then I called Megan at work. "Hi, my love," I said calmly. "We need to talk tonight. I'll be home at 7. She heard something in my voice. "Victor, what happened?" "Just be home." I hung up. At 7 I entered the apartment with a folder of documents. Megan was sitting on the couch, nervously clutching a cup of tea. "How was Gatlinburg?" I asked. She turned pale. "I didn't." "Don't lie anymore." I threw the photos on the coffee table. Roger. 27 photographs. 3 days in a resort hotel. 2 months of regular meetings, as I understood from the correspondence I managed to access through cloud storage. Megan grabbed the photos with trembling hands. Her face turned white as a wall. Victor, I can explain. Don't bother, I placed documents in front of her. This is a divorce petition. The apartment is mine, purchased before marriage. No children together. Property acquired during marriage. The couch you're sitting on, the TV and kitchen set. Take them. Money from the joint account, my savings, I transferred them to my personal account. I have statements proving that all major deposits were made by me. Your salary went to your personal expenses. You can't. I can. And I already did. By the way, Roger's wife already knows everything. As does his management. The real estate agency doesn't really approve when their agents spend work hours in hotels with mistresses. Something about the company's reputation. Megan's phone rang. She looked at the screen. Roger didn't answer. It rang again. And again. Better answer, I said. He needs support right now. She pressed the green button, turned on speakerphone. Roger's voice was panicked. Megan. Ashley knows everything. Someone sent her photos. She's taking the kids and filing for divorce. And my boss. I was fired. Megan, what do I do? She looked at me, and in her eyes I saw understanding. It was you, she whispered. Yes, I took the folder of documents. You have 2 days to pack your things and move out. A lawyer will contact you about the divorce. If you cooperate, everything will go quickly and without unnecessary noise. If not, I'll send copies of all photos to your management and colleagues. I'm sure they'll appreciate how their business analyst knows how to analyze situations. Victor, please? No, I walked to the door. You made your choice 2 months ago. Or even earlier. Now live with the consequences. This was the moment when I realized, there's no going back. I went to a friend's place where I stayed for a few days. Megan texted, called, begged for a meeting. I didn't respond. 3 days later she moved out to her sister's place. The divorce process took a month. Megan didn't resist. Her lawyer explained that with such evidence of infidelity she wouldn't win anything. The apartment remained mine. Megan took that same couch, TV and kitchen set. And her pain. But let me rewind a bit. During those 2 weeks of waiting I wasn't just sitting idle. I did my research thoroughly. I found out that Roger had a reputation as a ladies' man at his agency. He'd had several affairs before but always managed to keep them quiet. His wife Ashley was his college sweetheart. They'd been together for 12 years, married for 9. I learned that Megan and Roger had met at a real estate conference 6 months ago, not 2 months. The affair had been going on much longer than I initially thought. She'd been to Gatlinburg with him 3 times. There were other trips too, Atlanta, Memphis, even a weekend in New Orleans that she disguised as a girls' trip with her college friends. I discovered all this through her cloud backup. She'd been careless, keeping everything synced. Photos, messages, emails. It was all there. The way Roger called her his future. How Megan told him she was waiting for the right moment to leave me. How they discussed moving in together, maybe even buying a house through Roger's connections at the agency. Reading those messages was like swallowing broken glass. Each word cut deeper. But I kept reading, kept documenting. I needed to know the full extent of the betrayal. I needed to understand who I'd been married to for 3 years. There were conversations about me too. Roger asking if I suspected anything. Megan laughing, saying I was too trusting, that I never paid attention to details. They joked about how easy it was to fool me. How I worked such long hours at the factory that I barely noticed when she came home late. And then worse followed. I found messages where they'd been intimate in our apartment. While I was at work, Roger had been in our home, in our bed. The thought made me physically sick. I had to step away from the computer, walk around, breathe. But anger is a focusing tool if you use it right. I channeled every bit of rage into planning. This wasn't going to be a simple divorce where she walked away with half of everything and moved on with her lover. No. They both needed to understand the weight of their choices. I contacted a divorce lawyer that same week. Showed him everything, the photos, the messages, the timeline. He smiled grimly and said this was one of the most documented cases of infidelity he'd ever seen. With Tennessee's laws and the evidence I had, I could file for divorce on grounds of adultery, which would work heavily in my favor. Then I did something else. I reached out to Roger's previous affairs. It took some digging through his social media, some carefully worded messages to people who knew him. I found 2 other women he'd cheated with while married to Ashley. Both were willing to come forward if needed. Both had their own stories of his lies and manipulation. I compiled everything into a comprehensive file. Photos, screenshots, testimonies, dates, locations. It read like a prosecution case, which in a way it was. The day I confronted Megan, I had everything ready. The divorce papers were already filed. The lawyer was on standby. The evidence was distributed to the necessary parties, Ashley, Roger's employer, even a few key people in Megan's professional circle, though I held back on that last part as leverage. After I walked out that night, I didn't just go to a friend's place. I went to a hotel. I needed space to think, to process. The friend thing was a story for Megan to keep her off balance, wondering where I was. Over the next few days, I watched everything unfold through mutual friends and social media. Ashley threw Roger out immediately. She changed the locks, packed his things, and left them on the lawn. The photos circulated quickly in their social circle. Roger's reputation was destroyed overnight. His real estate agency didn't just fire him. They made an example of him. Sent out a company-wide email about professional conduct and integrity. His name was mud in the Nashville real estate community. Other agencies wouldn't touch him. Megan tried everything to reach me. She showed up at my workplace, but security turned her away after I'd given them her photo and instructions. She tried calling from different numbers, but I'd blocked everything except a single email address that I'd set up specifically for divorce communication. Her messages were desperate. First, denial and anger. Then bargaining, she'd end it with Roger, we could go to counseling, start fresh. Then depression, long rambling emails about how sorry she was, how she'd made a mistake, how she still loved me. I responded only once, through my lawyer. All communication must go through legal counsel. Any further direct contact will be documented and may be used in divorce proceedings. She didn't even suspect that I already knew everything. The divorce moved forward quickly. Megan tried to claim she deserved half the apartment's value since we'd been married when I'd made improvements to it. My lawyer shut that down with the renovation receipts, all in my name, all from my accounts, all before we got married. She tried to claim some of the savings. My bank statements showed a clear pattern. My deposits, my money. Her salary had gone to her own spending, clothes, spa days, those business trips that were actually romantic getaways with Roger. In Tennessee, adultery can affect property division and alimony. With the evidence I had, Megan's lawyer advised her to accept the terms I offered. She takes the furniture we bought together, I keep everything else, no alimony, clean break. She signed. But here's what I learned through mutual friends over the next few months. Roger completely cut contact with Megan after everything exploded. He blamed her for being careless, for getting caught. He said if she'd been smarter, they'd still be together. Megan had genuinely believed he loved her. That they had a future. She'd destroyed her marriage for a man who dropped her the moment things got difficult. Ashley's divorce from Roger was brutal. She took the house, got primary custody of the kids, and he was paying substantial child support. Roger moved to Atlanta, trying to rebuild his career in a city where nobody knew his history. Last I heard, he was working as a car salesman, a far cry from the prestigious realtor life he'd had. Megan stayed in Nashville. She tried to rebuild, but the story had spread through her professional network. Not from me. I never sent those photos to her colleagues. But in a city like Nashville, people talk. Someone who knew Ashley shared the story. These things have a way of getting around. This was the calmest day before the storm. I saw Megan a few months after the divorce was finalized. I was at a coffee shop near my new place and she walked in. She didn't see me at first, but I saw her. She looked tired, older than her 31 years. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her usually perfect appearance seemed worn. When she finally noticed me, she froze. For a moment, I thought she might come over, might try to talk. But something in my expression must have stopped her. I just looked at her, not with anger or hate, but with nothing. Complete indifference. Before I continue, please pause the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new interesting stories. Thank you. She turned and left without ordering. My reaction even shocked her friends. I sold the apartment a year after the divorce. Too many memories, both good and bad. I bought a small house on the outskirts of Nashville. It had a garage I converted into a workshop where I could work on personal welding projects, build furniture, create things with my hands. The house became my sanctuary. I painted it myself, chose every piece of furniture carefully, made it truly mine. No compromises, no what does she think considerations. Just my space, my rules, my peace. Work became a refuge too. I took on extra shifts, learned new welding techniques, became certified in specialized processes. My supervisor noticed my dedication and promoted me to lead welder. Better pay, more responsibility, but I welcomed it. kept me focused. I started going to the gym regularly. Not obsessively but consistently. The physical exertion helped clear my mind. I lost weight, gained muscle, felt healthier than I had in years. The guy in the mirror looked different, harder, more defined, more confident. Friends tried to set me up on dates. I declined at first, not ready. But after a year I started saying yes. Coffee dates, nothing serious. I was upfront about being divorced, about not wanting anything heavy. Some women appreciated the honesty, others moved on. Both outcomes were fine with me. I dated a woman named Sarah for a few months. She was a nurse, kind and funny. But I realized I was comparing her to Megan, or rather, to who I thought Megan was. That wasn't fair to Sarah. We ended it amicably. After that, I took a break from dating. Focused on myself, my hobbies, my friends. I joined a welding artist group, started creating metal sculptures. Some of them were good enough to sell at local art markets. It was gratifying to create something beautiful from raw materials. 2 years after the divorce, I ran into Ashley, Roger's ex-wife. She was at a parent-teacher conference at her school, and I was there delivering some custom metal bookshelves I'd made for the library as a donation. We recognized each other immediately. There was an awkward moment, then she smiled slightly. "Victor, right?" "Ashley." We talked for a few minutes. She thanked me for sending her those photos, said it gave her the evidence she needed for her divorce. She'd gotten the house, primary custody, and Roger was struggling to keep up with child support. "He moved to Atlanta," she said. "Trying to start over." "And you?" "Better," she said simply. "The kids are adjusting. I'm dating someone nice. A teacher at another school. Takes things slow. That's all I need right now." I nodded. "I'm glad you're doing well." "You too." "Getting there." We parted ways with a mutual understanding. Two people who'd been betrayed by the same man in different ways, both moving forward. After this moment, her life was never the same. 3 years after the divorce, I was at a hardware store picking up supplies for a project when I saw Megan again. She was with a man younger than me looking at paint samples. They seemed comfortable together, familiar. She saw me too. Our eyes met across the aisle. I nodded slightly, a simple acknowledgement. She nodded back, looking almost relieved that I hadn't made a scene or turned away. I realized then that the anger was truly gone. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't feel much of anything. She was just someone I used to know, part of a chapter of my life that was closed. I paid for my supplies and left. Didn't look back. That night I sat in my workshop working on a new sculpture. The metal glowed under my torch, malleable and responsive. I was creating a phoenix, wings spread, rising from flames. It was the most ambitious piece I'd attempted. As I worked, I thought about the last 3 years. The pain, the anger, the betrayal. But also the growth, the self-discovery, the peace I'd found. I'd lost a marriage, but I'd found myself. The phoenix took shape under my hands. Imperfect but beautiful. Broken but whole. Destroyed but reborn. Just like me. And the ending of this story surprised even me. 6 months later, I met Rachel at a sculpture exhibition where I was showing some of my work. She was an architect, divorced like me, with a wry sense of humor and kind eyes. We talked for hours that first night about art and design and our past mistakes. We took things slow. No rushing, no grand declarations. Just two people who'd been burned before, careful with each other's hearts. We dated for a year before moving in together. Another year before we got engaged. The wedding was small, just close friends and family. No big production, no stress. Just two people choosing each other, fully aware of what that choice meant. Standing at the altar watching Rachel walk toward me, I felt complete peace. This was right. This was real. This was what love actually felt like. Not the passionate, consuming fire I'd mistaken for love with Megan, but something steadier, deeper, more genuine. What happened after that is worth hearing. We bought a house together, bigger than my first one, with a yard and space for both of us to pursue our hobbies. Rachel designed it, I helped build some of the custom features. It was truly ours, built on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. Life wasn't perfect. We had arguments, disagreements, tough days. But we talked through them. No secrets, no lies, no betrayals. Just two imperfect people doing their best. I heard through the grapevine that Megan had married the guy I'd seen her with at the hardware store. They moved to Memphis for his job. I hope she was happy. I genuinely did. Not for her sake, but for mine. Because her happiness or unhappiness no longer had any power over me. Roger apparently never recovered professionally. Last I heard he was divorced again, working odd jobs, barely seeing his kids. He'd made his choices and lived with the consequences. Ashley remarried too, to that teacher she'd mentioned. I saw their wedding announcement in the local paper. She looked genuinely happy in the photo. 4 years after my divorce from Megan, Rachel and I welcomed our daughter. We named her Elena. She had Rachel's eyes and my stubbornness, according to the nurses. Holding her for the first time, I felt a love so pure and overwhelming it brought me to tears. This was what I'd been waiting for. This was the life I was meant to have. You won't guess how it all ends. Now, at 42, I look back on those dark days after discovering Megan's betrayal as a turning point. Not the end of my story, but the beginning of a better chapter. The pain was real, the anger was justified, but holding on to them would have poisoned my future. I chose differently. I chose to process, to heal, to grow. I chose to believe that betrayal didn't mean I was unlovable. It meant I'd loved someone incapable of appreciating it. The revenge I took on Megan and Roger wasn't cruel or vindictive, despite how it might sound. I simply revealed the truth and let natural consequences unfold. I protected myself financially and emotionally while giving them exactly what they'd built together. Nothing. Sometimes I drive past the old apartment building. I don't feel sad or nostalgic. It's just a building where someone I used to be once lived. My workshop has become my therapy. Each piece I create represents something, a feeling processed, a memory released, a step forward. The phoenix sculpture I made that night sits in my living room now, a reminder of what I overcame. Elena is 5 now, starting kindergarten. She's curious, fearless, and kind. She loves watching me work in the workshop, wearing safety goggles too big for her face. I'm teaching her that broken things can be remade into something stronger. Rachel and I celebrated 7 years together last month. We took Elena to the mountains, to Gatlinburg actually. I'd avoided that place since the discovery, but Rachel thought it was time to create new memories there. She was right. We hiked, played in waterfalls, ate too much fudge. Elena laughed herself silly on the alpine slide. At night, Rachel and I sat on the balcony of our cabin watching the sunset, and I felt grateful. Not despite what I'd been through, but because of it. Because that betrayal, as painful as it was, led me here. To this woman, this child, this life. A life built on truth, trust, and genuine love. I heard Megan got divorced again 2 years ago. Her second marriage lasted less than 3 years. I didn't feel satisfaction or vindication. Just a sort of sad recognition that some people keep making the same mistakes. I also heard she reached out to some of our old mutual friends asking about me, wanting to know if I was happy. They told me she seemed lonely, regretful. Part of me felt compassion for her. The rest of me just hoped she found her own path to healing. As for Roger, I stopped keeping track years ago. His story wasn't mine to follow anymore. I hope he learned something, became better. But his journey is his own. Mine is here, in this house with my wife and daughter, in my workshop creating art from fire and metal, in the quiet satisfaction of a life well lived and honestly built. The scar from that betrayal is still there. But scars are just proof that you survived something that tried to break you. They're evidence of healing, not wounds. I survived. I healed. I thrived. And that, ultimately, is the best revenge of all, living well, loving truly, and never letting someone else's choices define your worth. When Elena asks me someday about her mom and I being divorced before I met Rachel, I'll tell her an age-appropriate version of the truth. That sometimes people aren't ready for the commitment they make. That betrayal hurts, but it doesn't have to destroy you. That choosing yourself, your dignity, and your future is never wrong. I'll tell her that her mother, Rachel, is the woman who chose me every day, and whom I choose every day in return. That real love isn't dramatic or consuming. It's steady, honest, and safe. I'll tell her that mistakes and betrayals happen, but they don't define us. How we respond does. And I'll make sure she knows that she is loved, completely and unconditionally, by 2 parents who chose each other with open eyes and honest hearts. The welder who discovered his wife's betrayal in a phone screen reflection is gone. In his place is a man who learned that being broken open by pain can let in the light. That reconstruction is possible. That the life you build after betrayal can be even stronger than the one that was destroyed. I'm not grateful for what Megan did. But I'm grateful for who I became in spite of it. That's the real ending. Not revenge, not bitterness, not even justice. Just a man who refused to let betrayal be his final chapter, who kept turning pages until he found the story he was meant to live. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.